Hey everybody, Mr. Bissinger here with our last read aloud before spring break. I'm going to be reading a story about baseball because I'm missing baseball right now, and the baseball season would have started in early April. This book is called Something to Prove: The Great Satchel Paige versus Rookie Joe DiMaggio. It's a true story. In the winter of 1936, New York Yankees general manager Ed Barrow and his scout Bill Essick needed to test a young, skinny prospect named Joe DiMaggio. To see how good he is, he has to face the best, said Barrow. That's when Satchel Paige got the call. Can you come north? The scout asked. Satchel had been barnstorming the entire winter in Southern California. Never one to turn down an opportunity to pitch, Satchel accepted the invitation. Satchel was the marvel of the country. He might have even been the greatest pitcher in the world, but because of the color of his skin, he was not permitted to play in the major leagues. Meanwhile, the 21-year-old DiMaggio wondered what it would be like to hit against Satchel Paige. Legend had it that he threw fire. Baffled batters said the balls he pitched looked like marbles or bullets. The game was scheduled for February 7th in Oakland, California. DiMaggio joined Dick Bartell's All-Stars, a barnstorming team with an impressive lineup of Major League All-Stars. Satchel Paige was the only famous player on his team, the Satchel Paige All-Stars. Catcher Ebel Brooks played for the New York Black Yankees in the Negro Leagues, but for the rest of the lineup, playing with Satch was the chance of a lifetime. Dick Bartell's team looked good, but Satchel wasn't worried, at least not about himself. He had won 17 games in a row, barnstorming the West Coast, and had plenty of talented teams. His gang of semi-pro baseball players, on the other hand, made Satchel fret. Word of mouth about the showdown spread. More than 4,000 fans, both black and white, crammed the ballpark to watch Satchel do his magic against big leaguers. The umpire yelled, "Play ball!" And in the bottom of the first, Satchel dazzled the crowd with his menu of unique pitches. Satch threw his trouble ball, bat dodger, and wobbly ball, and the major leaguers went down without a hit. But things changed in the second inning when Bud Haffey and Cookie Lavagato both whacked doubles. The major leaguers had a run on the scoreboard. Then, in the third inning, with a runner on first and a one-run lead, it was finally Joe's turn at bat. Joe gripped his bat and stared at the lanky right-hander who was more than 60 feet away from him. "Watch the ball," Joe said to himself. Satchel rocked back, then forward, and then circled his throwing arm in a reverse-like windmill. He reached back and kicked his leg high in the air and delivered his pitch. It blazed through the air and came in close to DiMaggio and hit him. Knowing Satch's masterful control, Joe was sure he had been hit on purpose. It was the pitcher's way of saying, "Don't get too cocky in the batter's box, rookie." Joe shook it off and hustled to first base, and he took his lead. He noticed how Satchel commanded the mound. He had no doubt that Satch was the best anywhere. He was even more determined to get a hit off the star hurler. Satch's All-Stars started the fourth inning with a walk. The runner darted to third on a single by Ebel Brooks. Next up was old Satch. He glanced at his ragtag team. He knew it was up to him to do something. He clutched the bat and strode slowly to the batter's box. One of Satch's personal rules was to avoid running unless absolutely necessary. The first pitch looked like a watermelon to Satch, and he drilled it for a single. The runner scored to tie the game at 1 run each. For the next couple innings, the big leaguers struggled with Satchel's strange windmill wind-up. They were flummoxed by his assortment of baffling pitches. Butterflies danced in Joe's stomach as he stepped into the batter's box for the second time. He blocked out the noise of the crowd. He tried to focus on the pearly white bullet that seemed to leave ashes in the catcher's mitt. Satchel decided to throw the nervous rookie his whimsy-dipsy-do. He started the windmill delivery, kicked his leg high, and hurled the ball. Joe watched the pitch dip and dance, and he swung and missed. He took a deep breath, readied his bat, and steadied his legs for the next serving. "Time to cut loose my 4-day creeper," thought Satch. DiMaggio's bat collided with the ball and sent it skidding toward short. Joe jolted down the line, hoping for an infield hit, but the shortstop threw him out. A few innings later, Joe had his next chance to prove himself and maybe to break the tie. Keep your eyes off his windup and foot in the air. Just watch the ball, Joe told himself. Satchel threw Joe pitches that bent so much that they looked like a wiggle in a cyclone. Joe managed to get his bat on one of them. He sent a grounder to the second baseman for an easy out. Satch also did everything he could to get his team on the scoreboard. He dove into first, trying to beat out a hit. He slid hard into second, trying to break up a double play. After the game, Satch said, and when I wasn't batting or running, I was down at first trying to coach those plumbers playing with me. But the Satchel Paige All-Stars still couldn't score a run. The game went on. Joe stepped up to the plate for what would be his last at-bat. You can hit him. You know you can, he reminded himself. He stood tall in the batter's box. On the hill, Satchel focused his eyes on the catcher's glove. Let's see if this youngster can handle my midnight rider. The pitch cut through the air. Joe launched his graceful swing. Thwack! The ball flew off his bat and sailed over Satchel's head. Seconds later, it landed in the center fielder's glove. Joe kicked the dirt as he stopped his sprint. In the top of the ninth, the game was still tied. Satchel's first two hitters couldn't get on base. Then, with 2 outs, Ebel Brooks smashed a pitch deep into the outfield for a triple. Now Satchel was up. Some in the crowd cheered. Others taunted him. Each fan knew that if Satch managed to get a run in, the game would be all but over. The noise from the fans was more than heard. It was felt by the players, and it went straight to their nerves. But old Satch didn't fidget. He knew he had to hit the ball. And then the pitch came in. He smacked it toward Bartell at short. He fumbled it, then fired to first. Satchel beat the throw, and Brooks scored. Or so Satch thought. You're out, yelled the first base umpire. Satchel's eyes bulged. He knew that meant the run didn't count, and the inning was over. Satch ran to the umpire and argued, but umpires never changed their minds. Years later, Satch said that this ump made him so mad that his stomach got upset, and he had to belch to ease his miseries. No matter. Satch had a job to do. In the bottom of the ninth, he made sure that the major leaguers didn't score again. He even notched 2 more strikeouts thanks to his trusted trouble ball. For the entire 9 innings, he had only given up 3 hits, and he had 9 strikeouts. Still, the Satchel Paige All-Stars went down quick and easy in the top of the 10th. The sky grew dark as Satchel took the mound in the bottom of the 10th. He got 2 quick outs, then he faced the slugger Bartell, who singled for his team's first hit since the 3rd inning. Next at bat was Joe DiMaggio. Satch studied DiMaggio, who had been 0 for 3 so far. Satch threw a fastball. Suddenly, Bartell took off for second. Joe watched the pitch go by for a strike, and Bartell beat the catcher's throw for a stolen base. Satchel shook his head. He kicked the rubber with his foot. I'm firing my B-ball, he thought. Strike 2, but the ball got past the catcher. Bartell scooted to third base. Satch pounded the ball with his glove. This was DiMaggio's last chance to pass the test. His heart raced as he looked for Satchel's release point, and the ball coming like a bullet on fire. Satchel delivered DiMaggio's swing. Ka-thunk! His bat skimmed the top of the ball and sent it bouncing to Satch's left. Satch lunged and his glove knocked the ball toward the second baseman. DiMaggio blazed down the first base line, but instead of charging, the second baseman froze. It seemed like an eternity passed before the sandlotter got to the ball. Finally, he scooped it up and fired it to first. The ball arrived a split second after DiMaggio's foot thumped the base. Bartell scored the winning run. Satch stood in disbelief. What more could he have done? Bill Essick clapped from the stands. After he composed himself, Satchel walked by the major leaguers on his way to the dugout. DiMaggio beamed. Now I know I can make it with the Yankees. I finally got a hit off old Satch, he said. Satch overheard Joe's comment. He and DiMaggio locked eyes. Satch could tell that he had the rookie's respect. Immediately following the game, the Yankee scout sent a telegram to Ed Barrow with the good news. DiMaggio all we hoped he'd be. Hit Satch 1 for 4. Joe left the ballpark with his head held high. He proved he belonged in the big leagues. He joined the Yankees later that spring, and this slugger helped his team win the 1936 World Series. Satch didn't prove he belonged in the major leagues. He'd done that years ago. Still, after hearing about Satch's performance, Philly manager Connie Mack stated he'd pay $100,000 to sign Satchel if he only were white. Satch continued barnstorming in the offseason and played for the Pittsburgh Crawfords in the Negro Leagues that summer. 12 years later, and 1 year after Jackie Robinson became the first African-American major leaguer, Satchel finally got his chance. When he took the mound for the St. Louis Browns, he was the oldest rookie ever, 42 years old. His appearance featured his array of blazing fastballs. He also hurled his hesitation pitch, which made one batter throw his bat 40 feet up the third base line in frustration. The Browns beat the Cleveland Indians 4-1. Author's note: Joe DiMaggio and Leroy Satchel Paige were two of the best ball players of the 20th century. You probably didn't need a book to tell you that. What I do hope this book will show you is how one day in 1936 these two men had something to prove on the baseball diamond in California. Both men proved what they needed to prove. But what did baseball do with the proof? The answer says a lot about race and justice in America. Here are more pairs of facts from the careers of DiMaggio and Paige. Joe DiMaggio was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1955. Satchel Paige got his plaque in Cooperstown 16 years later. The first African-American to be inducted for his accomplishments in the Negro Leagues, and the third African-American baseball player overall. But even that honor was not entirely happy. Paige had to endure public debate about whether Negro League players should be inducted into a separate wing of the Hall. It's just another example of how Paige was forced to take the long way to reward he'd obviously earned. Today his plaque hangs in the Hall of Fame in the main wing where it belongs. In the end, it might be simplest to let DiMaggio have the last word on Satch, the best and fastest pitcher I ever faced. Hope you enjoyed the story. Have a great day, everyone.